Welcome to another DragonLance Saga review episode. It is Palast Paleswelt the 12th. My name is Adam, and today I'm going to give you my spoiler review, my spoiler-filled review of Dragons of Eternity, the new novel that just released last week by Margaret, Weis, and Tracy Hickman, finishing out, completely ending the DragonLance Destinies trilogy. So if you read the first two, you should definitely read the third. For real. All right, I would like to take a moment and thank the DL Saga members of this channel and invite you to consider becoming a member by visiting the link in the description below. There's also links for apparel, t-shirts, bookmarks, coffee cups, stuff like that. And you can always pick up Dragonlance gaming materials using my affiliate links. Now, it is the 40th anniversary of Dragonlance's existence this year, and I am running a celebration of sorts where anyone can submit a written piece just briefly talking about how, it doesn't have to be brief, it can be long-winded if you want, how Dragonlance has affected you, how you were inspired by it. If you want to just submit a piece of art or a piece of audio or video, you can either send me the link to where you're hosting it or you can send it to me and I'll host it. All of that is going to be ultimately unveiled on November 1st, which is the basic release of Dragons of Autumn Twilight, the novel. And that's kind of it. Join in the celebration. Let's have some fun with this, right? All right, so the way these work is I've written a review, and I'm just going to read through the pre-written review, and then afterward, if you happen to be joining in chat, then, put up your comments, and we'll just sort of riff a little bit about Dragonlance, about this novel, about this trilogy, about the implications that this trilogy has on the rest of Dragonlance Saga, and there are some pretty damn major ones as well. So put up your questions and we'll just sort of chat a little bit afterward. If you disagree with my assessment here, or if you disagree with anything that I have ever said in the world, that's okay. You're welcome here. At no point will anyone ever be completely shut down from sharing their opinion, no matter how inappropriate some other people may find it, or unjust or unfair, or, just out there. I think this is a wonderful hub of Dragonlance fans where we can all just be open with our opinions. Nothing wrong with that. So let's get into it. Okay. Let me begin by saying I was expecting a massive information dump on how this timeline occurred and why. And while we got brief notes, it still never addressed the cataclysm or convincingly explained why the good dragons didn't just hide their dragon eggs and go back to the fight, or how one god stood against a pantheon of gods, or how dragons could only be killed by dragonlances when it's really just a faster way of killing them. It's not like they're invulnerable to normal weapons. All that being said, they did explain about a lost war that is ongoing, and in it, the gods failed in their attempts at stopping Takesis, and that there was a cleansing fire that spread over the land. But that's all at the end of, I feel like I have a hair in my mouth. That's gross. At the end of this novel, and so it doesn't explain why we're here or what or anything. Hey, Giggles the Clown, how you doing? From Michigan. Nice. I had family that used to live there. Beautiful country. State. Okay. Oh yeah, and it's something I didn't even write in my review, which I just thought was very, very strange. Alice Raniker, in this novel specifically, is like a mix between a gnome and a kender for no reason at all. And we had, in the Chaos timeline past, Uncle Trapspringer, which breaks canon because Uncle Trapspringer was in Kender Home novel, which was, he was Hasselhoff's uncle, and so he didn't live 1,000 years ago, so it made no sense that he was around in the Third Dragon War in this novel. It's just like completely out of place and completely ridiculous. But what are you going to do? Hey, Engine Joe, how you doing, man? Painting soft. Nice, nice. I think I saw some of those pictures on your YouTube feed, which is pretty dope. You guys should check out his YouTube channel. He has a lot of really great Dragonlance stuff on it. All right, so let's continue here. We begin in the post-Blue Ladies War, pre-Summer of Chaos timeline, and Dalamar collects Tanis, bringing him to Astonis, and is shown the alternate history volume that is bloody and unfinished. It ends with Astonis putting the pen down and picking up the sword to fight Takesis. This is, of course, odd, since they then reference Laurana being tortured and killed by Takesis, but since it hasn't happened yet, and the book is unfinished, how could it then be in the book unless Gillian does not join the fight until the bitter end, but it seems the Lost War began long after the Third Dragon War was won by Takhisis. So the timelines don't actually make like the chaos timeline doesn't actually match up to what they're saying that it's supposed to be. They just sort of conveniently throw in ideas and thoughts in order to convince Tanis to then go back when he doesn't naturally want to. It's confused and just random. In any case, since Huma and Gwyneth died, they couldn't use the Dragonlances to fight off the Dark Queen in the Third Dragon War, so Takhisis is now ruling all of the land. But even though she's ruling the land, she still decided to create the dragon armies, the dragon high lords, and draconians for some reason, which again makes no sense, but okay. This leads me to believe that the cataclysm happened somehow, because Solace was built due to marauders in the post-cataclysm era, and the gods left the world to their defeat by Takhisis in the Third Dragon War or the Second Rose Rebellion, but it's never explained why, how, what, when, anything. So we're pretty much screwed unless Brother Cairn can use the device of time journeying that Alice Raniker made, go back to 351 Chaos Time, take Destina Rosethorn back to the future, the Third Dragon War precisely, and stop the assassin from killing Huma and Gwyneth. But if she goes back, Takhisis will sense the Grey Gem and stop her. So Tanis is being sent to 351 Chaos Time in order to distract Takhisis, who is searching for the Grey Gem in that time, while Brother Cairn and Destina stop the assassin in the past. Whew. That's the whole story. Okay, so that's the setup, right? But of course, shit goes down. Namely, in Chaos Time, Kitiara is the only one waiting at the end of the last home for Tanis, specifically who she betrayed to the Dark Queen, sending the companions fleeing from Solace. Tanis was the leader of a resistance group and finds Flint at the crossroads, and High Master Toda stops them while he's searching for the blue crystal staff. So what you see in this timeline, before I continue here, is that everything that we read in Dragons of Autumn Twilight is still unfolding, just in a slightly modified way. Because instead of it being the War of the Lance, it is the Lost War, where it's a last-ditch effort for the free peoples of Anslon to fight against the Dark Queen in all of her power in this Chaos timeline. But the minor events, like the gods being gone for no reason, the blue crystal staff heralding the return of the gods, and even Verminard and Pax Tharkaz's revolt is something that's happening in this timeline. So you kind of get this mix between a different perspective of the timeline that we're aware of, but it's filtered through this new chaos time. And then Taz comes out of the tree line and meets them just like in the original Dragons of Autumn Twilight. And this is Taz from the real future past. So he tells Tanis that Sturm is wounded and near death and Destina is poisoned. If she can't be healed, who knows what will happen to the Grey Gem, as it doesn't want Takhisis to find it, so it's barely able to keep Destina alive. Taz suggests that Goldmoon could heal her, and they all go to the Inn of the Last Home to find her. Raistlin arrived early and is supposedly working with Kit and his brother Karaman together with the Dark Queen. Kit wants to offer Tanis a lieutenancy in her army, much to Bakaris' shame, and when Flint and Taz enter, and Tanis sneaks in, chaos continues when Hedrick the High Theocrat, now for the Dark Queen instead of the Seekers, tells Kit about the Grey Gem. She is supposed to look for it, but then sees Goldmoon with a wooden staff and is immediately convinced for no reason whatsoever that that wooden staff is the blue crystal staff. This is like in a game session where players know out-of-character information and use it during the game. Total metagaming, Kit. Hedrick grabs the staff, which shocks him. Taz protects the staff. Fizban hits Kitiara with a fireball and shakes the inn like an earthquake, yelling fire. Karaman runs out with Kitiara and everyone else flees through the kitchen. Raist helps Destina with his herbalism skill, and Tanis, Flint, Taz, Goldmoon, and Riverwind are all then caught by Kitiara, who is told by Bakaris that Verminard is pissed off that she's in his territory stirring up trouble. She leaves and has her Bozak Draconians tie up the heroes with web spells, but they're ended up being saved by an elven resistance team led by Lorana. She asks the companions to take the staff to her kingdom to prove that the gods have not left, but they refused, and then saying that they need to heal Sturm because at the end of the last novel, Sturm was grievously wounded, and they all arrived at this timeline. They leave to do so as Laurana and Tanis talk about the Resistance and their history. The Dragonlances are in the High Clerist's Tower on the altar to Paladine, guarded by undead minions and a dragon, due to the Dark Queen being unable to destroy them. Bakaris fled when the elves arrived and hid in the basement of the old mill, the same old mill that the companions are all using to rest in. He hears them return and make plans. Very convenient. Destina and Krynn are going to the past to stop Huma and Gwyneth's deaths, and Raistlin, Tanis, Taz, and Flint are headed to the High Clerist's Tower to collect the Dragonlances and the Dragon Orb that's supposedly left there by Magius. Riverwind and Goldmoon are headed to Pax Tharkaz with Laurana as they hear about a slave uprising, and suddenly Laurana doesn't want to take the staff to her father, a complete 180-degree change of opinion for no reason whatsoever. In the early morning, Bakaris flees to Kitiara to tell her about the Grey Gem, Dragonlances, Dragon Orb, and that her brothers are traitors, but she refuses to believe him. But just in case, she heads to Crystalmire Lake to talk with Ski, who confirms the information, though they outright disbelieve the Grey Gem talk. Here's something that I just don't understand. Everyone disbelieves the Grey Gem story. Everyone. But so much nonsense has happened in all of the Dragonlance Saga history. Why wouldn't they believe that one story? They believe everything else, but just not that one thing. It's just unbelievable as you continue to read. So as Kit's army is packing up to move to Naraka with the other dragon armies to begin the Lost War, Toda tells Bakaris that he should get rid of Kit so that he can then be the new High Lord. Bakaris likes the idea and goes to ambush Kit returning from Ski's cave. Karaman overhears them and sneaks behind Bakaris to stop him. Bakaris ends up ambushing Kit, nearly killing her with a blow to the head with a rock, as Karaman attacks him from behind, killing Bakaris with his bare hands. Kitiara thanks Karaman for saving her life, then tells him that she knows that they're all traitors, and since she was saved by him, she'll give him a chance to die with his brother, as she's headed to the High Clerist's Tower to kill the companions. Kit tells Karaman that there is a priestess of Zeboim that can teleport him to the tower, the High Clerist's Tower, but the price would be his soul. Karaman would do anything for Raist, so he visits Alarius Shortfin, who takes his soul for Zeboim and teleports him. This is a massive convenience in getting Karaman with his friends, but since Raistlin is teleporting people around with Magius' spell, why not have everyone else teleport to places? The companions arrive at the tower and sleep the night when Karaman comes in, and they split up to look for the Dragon Orb and collect the Dragonlances, knowing that Kit is on her way and Kyan Bloodbane is sleeping outside. Now, I did forget to mention a very heartwarming moment where Tasselhoff steals the blue crystal staff from Goldmoon, hides it behind his back, and starts slowly walking toward Flint. And everyone's like, "What are you doing, Tasselhoff?" He's like, "Nothing." Like, "We see you have the staff. It's taller than you are. It's clearly behind your back." And then he just proceeds to beat Flint twice with the staff in order to heal him so that he wouldn't have a heart attack and die in God's home later in that one timeline, because he doesn't want to lose his friend again. It's very heartwarming and endearing, and it made me laugh roarously out loud reading this whole book. And there's continuously moments like this where Tasselhoff, his actions are driven by loss of his friends, the mourning of their loss in his timeline, knowing that if they're successful in this timeline, it's not going to matter because they're not going to be here to suffer. But still, it's just nice to see that Taz has this massive big heart, and he's going to do everything he can on the off chance that he's stuck in Chaos Timeline to save his friends. And that's the Tasselhoff we all know and love, so I really appreciated it. Destina and Krynn travel to the past and tell no one about the Gudlos leaders, the captain and mother, abducting Magius and killing him, and instead look for Tully, who will assassinate Huma and Gwyneth. Tully sees the Grey Gem in Destina's hands and tries to take it as he flees after she decks him in the face, which was just gold, which is awesome. Takesis meets Immolatus to talk to him about his preemptive attack on the tower and subsequent wound with the Dragonlance. Immolatus is pissed off and in no mood to talk to her. She tells him about the Grey Gem, but Immolatus doesn't care at all. Captain and Mother deliver Magius' body to the tower, and the gods of magic arrive to collect the Staff of Magius, honor his death, and kill Captain and Mother. Tully tells Immolatus about the glowing Grey Gem, but he doesn't care, instead sending him to assassinate Huma with the poison dagger. You can really see evil turning in on itself, and if the Knights of Takesis were around, they would be running things so much smoother. But Back at Chaos Time, the heroes are ready to leave when Kittyar and Ski turn up. Sturm goes to confront them, and everyone but Karaman joins him. Raistlin sends Karaman to God's home with the Dragonlances, as they expect Gunther Wistan and the Alliance forces are going to meet there and lead their forces together against the Naraka in the Lost War. Sturm impales Ski with a Dragonlance in the chest, sending him crashing into the tower and burying himself and Raistlin. This was a great rematch against Kit and Ski, where Sturm truly shines. Taz stabs Ski in the foot, a little echo of him fighting Chaos, as Ski tries to breathe lightning on Tanis. Kit catches Sturm off guard, but before she can kill him, Flint barrels into Kit, sending them both over the wall, but Flint is caught and brought back up as Ski goes over the wall to rescue Kit. The heroes rest well in the temple and leave to God's home in the morning. They find Karaman and the defeated Kiri Jolith, the god, when Sargonis, the god, arrives and aligns with Kiri Jolith against Takesis. Then the Dark Queen arrives and begins to destroy everyone, and just before everyone dies, coincidentally, Takesis fills the Grey Gem in the past with Destina and Cairn. Back in the past, Destina sees Mullen Tully and warns Huma, hitting Tullo with the Grey Gem, which forces him to stab himself with the poison dagger and die. Destina is thanked, but the war has begun and lava is being lobbed over the ramparts, thrown into Knights of Salamnia, decimating everyone. Destina is wounded and passes out, wakes up in the temple. Never really explained how she got there. I assume it was Brother Cairn, but it's never explained. Takesis then appears in her human form, approaching her, demanding the Grey Gem, and she grievously wounds Destina as a messenger from the Dark Queen's army arrives, telling her that Immolatus has fled, Huma has slain 2 of her dragons, and her army is now fleeing. Takesis then turns into the Tiamat form and goes to battle Huma, telling the messenger to sit on Destina. Huma and Gwyneth are killed by Takesis, but not before she is gravely wounded and falls to the abyss, writing history. Cairn comes in and knocks out the messenger and teleports Destina to the Inn of the Last Home as the companions are fleeing it, and Goldmoon heals Destina from her grave wounds caused by Takesis. They return to their own timeline in the Library of Palanthus. Dalamar and Justarius collect a heptagon container from Alice Raniger in order to hold the Grey Gem, and the Grey Gem is placed in it and given to Dalamar, who then gives it to the gods of magic. The Graygem of Gargath is now safely hidden away in a magical vortex vaster and deeper than time itself, of which not even light can escape. And this changes the future, so the Irida will never have the Grey Gem, so they can never crack it open, and the Fifth Age will never occur. But Raniker's clock is working again in this time for some reason, and Tass remembers all of the time travel shenanigans, so Astinus says that he's blessed by the gods. Ultimately, it does leave the possibility for the new device of time journeying to be used to get the Grey Gem from the past, of course, but I hope no one writes that. There is a lot of great storytelling that can be done with the Knights of Takesis' invasion without chaos interrupting it, because that is this timeline that is now the real timeline of Dragonlance. So, Destina returns to Palanthus with Cairn, sells her estate, then heads back home to discover that the Copper Dragon Sable bought her estate from her family and gifted it to her, and her mother is there rebuilding it and ready to officiate their wedding. She's noted in history as the nameless honorary Knight of Salamnia and is working to include women into the Knights. This reminded me of an annotation I thought was in the Legends, but was actually in Dragons of Spring Dawning. Lord Gunther Wistan promotes Lorelantha Lhasa to General of the Knights of the Salamnic Knights, and as the Knights complain that it's against the measure, Astinus says that there was a female commander in the Third Dragon War who was accepted into the Knights of Salamnia after the father and brothers died, who rose to a Knight of the Sword and died honorably in battle. Tracy Hickman mentioned that the story needs recalling and is still being researched in an annotation. I have to believe that this was reframed into Destina Rosethorn's story, and it's really cool to see that a seed that was planted 40 years ago is now finally bearing fruit, so to speak. So all in all, I really appreciated this, but there were some things that were open-ended that kind of bugged me. Where was there a cataclysm? Is the landmass in Chaos Time like it was before the cataclysm? Why did the gods leave after the Third Dragon War? Was it because of the Second Rose Rebellion? If so, why? What's the point of Raniker's clock? Because it only allowed glimpses into the future, not time travel. Since there's no longer a Chaos War, the version of history Tasselhoff saw at the beginning of the War of Souls trilogy is now canon, which is pretty damn cool. The Knights of Takhisis will be the next big threat, and it can be played out at the tabletop by us gamers. So that is the spoiler review of Dragons of Eternity. Let's see what you guys have to say. So Giggles the Clown, thanks again for tuning in live. Engine Joe, great to see you. GT Man from CT, how you doing? You remember reading these years ago. It was confusing then, but yeah, this is the newest one. So I hope I didn't spoil it for you if you continue tuning in. Hey, Chris. Yeah, the rematch of Kitten Ski versus Sturm was dope. I loved seeing that. You love seeing the companions together again, though you didn't think they got Flint's character correct in your head. He was always more of a grumpy complainer, more than just a grumpy complainer. I don't know. I mean, the amount of light that was shown on Flint was through the lens of confusion, because everyone around him was talking from a position of knowledge. He was the only one in a position of ignorance. So they were talking about the past and the future that should be and the past that wasn't. And he's just sitting there like, what the hell are you guys talking about? So it actually worked for me because he was left out. He was the only ignorant person in the group. And I liked that. I liked that they played it straight for him. Even though I do like it when he's sort of in on all this stuff, because then he busts chops and he's, makes jokes and it's really funny. But what are you going to do? Wait until Taz meets the alternate version of himself. Well, I mean, you can do that in your own canon, but as far as time travel is explained in this novel specifically, you can never go back and meet yourself. You always take over the version of you that exists in that timeline with all of your knowledge from the future. So you'll never meet yourself. It's sort of a paradox correction. They never explained how Alice Raniker could do the things that she could do. Yeah, no, they couldn't. She was the convenience, like the massive convenience in all of this. She created this infinity mirror so that it can trap chaos. I think this was a huge middle finger to TSR by the authors. And arguably, there's only like 2 or 3 actual chapters with the Destina in this of the 44 chapters. And everything else is devoted to the Heroes of the Lance. So again, I think this was just Margaret Weis and Tracy Hickman going back to the well they're familiar with, and it's just the way they wanted to retell stories from their favorite characters. Because Raceland's like the main character in this, not Destina. Let's see. Ski comes back, sort of. The book made it possible for you to do what you intended to do all along, revive Dragonlance to a measure and respect it deserves. Yeah, this completely reset the whole timeline. I did not think they were going to do it. I was shocked when people would suggest that Margaret Weis and Tracy Hickman would have the cojones to completely erase hundreds and hundreds of books worth of history and knowledge. But they did. They did. Which is shocking that they did it. But Raniker is an odd egg. Taz hits Flint with the blue crystal staff. That was super hilarious. Let's see. You enjoyed the book. Listened to it on Audible. Yeah, I mean, I listened to it on Audible and I gave you guys the non-spoiler review. This time I read the actual novel for my spoiler review. And I really enjoyed it. The fact is I enjoyed Fifth Age when it came out. I enjoyed the correction of the War of Souls that made on the dragon overlords of the Fifth Age. I had fun with the first novel and some aspects of the second and third novel of the Dark Disciple trilogy. But ultimately, Dragonlance to me is, post-World Lance, pre-Chaos War. And that's where it ended it. So we still are going to have the Knights of Takhisis. We're going to still have them invading. All of that is still going to happen. It's just we're not going to have chaos coming in and the gods allowing the Knights of Takhisis to take over the rest of the world. So the draconians, like draconian measures, is still going to happen. It's just it's not going to end the way it ended because they didn't go and fight in Thorbarden for that fire dragon and find the eggs. So maybe they found eggs without having to battle a fire dragon, and maybe they would still end up with their own city and ability to reproduce. That's still a possibility. It's just you have to do it without the remnants of chaos included in it. Them changing the DL timeline, you think that's for good or worse? Hey, Dark Angel, thanks for tuning in. I think it's for good. And I explained it just a minute ago. I like this era more than all the wild, weird changes that happened later. So this takes Dragonlance from this really sort of isolated War of the Lands thing that then spread out into this unwieldy sort of course-corrected timeline and just sort of brings it right back to the beginning. So it's nice and tight again. And you can just kind of do whatever you want now. So it's kind of cool. You just got your copy today. You'll watch the review after it. Yeah, Sitharos, definitely don't listen to this spoiler. Thank you for checking in, though. There's no timeline in your opinion. There never was in 15 years. It will change again. I don't know. They're telling that, and I think this is why there's that Classics moniker. Because this is the version that Margaret Weis and Tracy Hickman want Dragonlance to be in. Not the DragonLance Saga that had unfolded, through TSR and Wizards of the Coast and all of that. So this is them course correcting of their own narrative and creating their own holy timeline, as it were. And I liked it for that. I don't mind it. These are the authors that created the whole thing in the first place. So if they want to retake ownership, I'm here for it. I got to be honest, I don't think the quality of writing was all that great. Same with the last two books. There's a lot of logical fallacies in this and a lot of conveniences and contrivances, but I don't mind it. I'd already come to terms with what was going on in the first two novels at this point. And so I think this was a really good bookend to those and to the author's versions of this world and these characters. I really did enjoy it. So you love this book more, but the logic breaks down the more you think about it. Yeah, but I really do feel like that's, when they go out of their way to ignore so much of what's already been written and so much which has already been explained for simplicity, because they don't want to have to do the research, which, to be fair, is kind of lazy. When they don't want to do all that research and they don't want to, recognize it, well, this is the best way to get them back on track. And since their next trilogy is going to be Magus and Huma in the Age of Might, it's not really going to matter, or pre-Age of Might, actually. It's not really going to matter because, actually, no, it is the Age of Might. It's not going to matter because they're just going to do their own thing anyway, and it's going to be under the classic nomenclature rather than just the Dragonlance nomenclature. And so that'll be their way of differentiating. In case any other books are written, they'll just ignore that timeline and stuff. So what are you going to do? The world would be so different without the cataclysm that the companions wouldn't have met each other at nights. Well, they did explain that the companions met each other because they started a resistance against the Dragon High Lords and Takhisis' rule, which Kitiara betrayed, which is why they all separated for 5 years and we're going to meet at the end of the last home to restart the resistance. But again, it was a contrivance, totally. You feel to you separate from the TSR material in so many ways it exists. The Dragonlance you know about can be and should be. It's definitely separate for sure. And I'm okay with that. All right. That's it. Let me know what you guys thought of Dragons of Eternity. That's going to do it for this spoiler review of Dragons of Eternity by Margaret Weis and Tracy Hickman. Are you happy with the fate of the Graygem? Are you happy with them changing the timeline? And finally, do you think we'll ever get a revised Knight of Takhisis War series of novels? Feel free to email me at info@dlsaga.com or leave a comment below. I would like to take a moment and remind you to subscribe to this YouTube channel, ring the bell to get notified about upcoming videos, and click the like button. This all goes to help other Dragonlance fans learn about this channel and its content. This channel is all about celebrating the wonderful world, 40 years of the Dragonlance Saga, so thank you for tuning in and joining in the celebration. So until next time, for Dragonlance Saga, my name's Adam. Slán Javar.